The first time it happened, Daniel wrote it off as stress. He woke in the dead of night, heart hammering, the echo of his own name still hissing in his ears. The dream had been the same as always, a figure with no face, standing at the foot of his bed, its voice like rusted nails dragged across glass. Daniel. Shaking it off, he stumbled to the bathroom. The mirror was fogged, though the shower hadn't run for hours. He wiped the glass with his palm, and froze. Scrawled in the condensation, as if by an unseen finger, were the words. "I'm here." Daniel told himself it was sleepwalking. A prank. Anything but what his gut screamed it was. But the next night, he saw it in the mirror. Not behind him. Not over his shoulder. Inside the glass. A shadow, darker than the blackness of the room, its hollowed-out face pressed against the other side of the reflection. Watching. Waiting. He smashed the mirror with his fist. The shards were gone by morning. No glass. No blood. Just his own wide-eyed reflection staring back at him. Asterisk blinking a second too late, asterisk. Now, Daniel avoids mirrors. But sometimes, in the corner of his eye, he catches it. A flicker of movement in windows. A silhouette in his phone screen. A whisper against his ear when the room is silent. It's learning. And it's almost through. The voice came just before dawn, curling through the silence like smoke. Lulu. Lena shot upright in bed, her skin prickling. That name, asterisk her asterisk name, the one only Gran had called her, hadn't been spoken aloud in years. Not since the funeral. The dream clung to her, a thing with too many teeth, hunched at the foot of her bed, crooning that nickname in Gran's voice. But Gran's voice had never sounded wet before, like something chewing on the syllables. She flicked on the lamp. 3 jagged grooves split the wood of her bedroom door, deep, deliberate, as if something had dragged claws down the grain. Her breath hitched. Then, from the hallway. Lulu. Not a memory. Not her mind playing tricks. Something was here. And it knew exactly what to call her. Lena spent the next day scrubbing the marks away. She checked the locks. Buried herself in work. But that night, the voice returned. Asterisk, you miss her, don't you, Lulu? Asterisk. This time, it came from inside the closet. Now, she sleeps with the lights on. The claw marks come back by morning, no matter how many times she paints over them. And the voice? It's getting closer. Last night, it whispered from under the bed. In Gran's exact tone the day she died. The demon came every night with the same offer. Let me in, it whispered from the edges of Eli's nightmare, its voice like ink spreading through water. Asterisk, just a small favor, and the world will know your name. Asterisk. Eli always refused. He'd wake in a sweat, clutching his paint-stained sheets, laughing it off. Just stress. Just the desperation of a failed artist clinging to delusions. Until the changes began. The first was subtle, a shadow in the background of his cityscape that hadn't been there when he put down his brush. Eli scrubbed at the canvas, but the darkness clung like oil. The next morning, the shadow had form. A hunched silhouette. Watching. Waiting. Now Eli paints frenzied landscapes in daylight, only to find them altered by dawn. The figure grows clearer with each revision, elongated limbs pressing against the canvas from within, its hollow eyes tracking him across the studio. Last night, he dreamt of the demon again. This time, it held up one of his own paintings, the figure now standing front and center, its mouth stretched in a grin no human hand had painted. Too late to refuse now, it crooned, as the canvas began to bleed. Eli's stopped sleeping. Stopped painting. But the artworks keep changing anyway. And this morning, the figure's hand was breaking through the surface. The first time Jason saw it, he thought it was sleep paralysis. That grinning face hovering inches from his own. Yellowed teeth stretching too wide. Black eyes drinking in his fear. He woke screaming to an empty room. Then he saw the footprints. Muddy. Barefoot. Leading from his bedsheets to the closet door. Jason told himself it was a prank. His roommate's idea of a joke. But the scratching started that night, a slow, deliberate scritch from inside the closet. Like something filing its nails against the wood. He piled textbooks against the door. It didn't stop. Now Jason sleeps with the lights on. The footprints appear anyway, fresh mud dripping as if whatever made them just climbed out of a swamp. The closet handle rattles at 3:17 a.m. every morning without fail. Last night, he made a mistake. He looked. The door creaked open just a crack, enough to see that grin glowing in the darkness, those two long fingers curled around the frame. "You're finally awake," it whispered. Jason swears the voice came from right behind his ear. He's moved his bed to the dorm lounge. But sometimes, when he passes the closet in daylight, he hears breathing. And the faint, wet sound of something licking its lips. The door stood at the end of the hallway. Blackened wood. Tarnished brass knob still warm to the touch. The scent of burned hair clinging to its frame. Mia pressed her palms against her eyes and counted to 10. When she looked again, it was still there. Last night's dream came rushing back, the endless corridor, the whispering voice urging her to just turn the handle, the way her reflection in the door's surface had grinned at her with too many teeth. Her phone clattered to the floor as something knocked. Once. Twice. Then, a sound like claws dragging down the wood. The super said there'd never been a door there. The building plans showed solid brick. Yet every morning, the char marks on the wallpaper grew darker. The knob developed a greasy sheen, as if touched by too many fingers. And the knocking? It changed. First it mimicked her father's rhythm. Then her dead cat's scratching. Last night, it used her own voice begging to be let in. Mia barricaded it with a bookshelf. This morning, the shelf stood undisturbed. But the door stood open just a crack. Through the gap, she saw only darkness. And the faint outline of something inhaling deeply.